While several leaders of the Asia-Pacific economies are gathering in San Francisco for the summit, all eyes are on the much-anticipated Biden-Xi meet on the sidelines. Chinese President Xi Jinping is in the United States on the eve of this high-stakes meet. The last time he met U.S. President Joe Biden was in Bali last year on the sidelines. But since then, U.S.-China ties have seen several flare-ups. Amidst the tensions, both nations did increase diplomatic efforts. A series of meetings have taken place recently between U.S. and Chinese high-ranking officials, and now finally the presidents are coming to the table as they try to stabilize ties. This is Xi Jinping's first U.S. visit in 6 years. Biden says the talks between the two leaders will seek to resume normal communication between the two superpowers.
To get back on a normal course of corresponding, being able to pick up the phone and talk to one another if there's a crisis, being able to make sure our militaries still have contact with one another. We can't take, as I told you, we're not trying to decouple from China, but what we're trying to do is change the relationship for the better.
Biden says the United States is not looking to decouple from China but want to change the relationship for the better. High on Biden's priority list will be restoring military-to-military communication with China. Talks are also expected to be held on Taiwan, the war in Ukraine and West Asia, as well as discussions on trade and people-to-people ties. The meeting comes amid years of friction between the two nations, some of them intensified due to some recent developments. The ties went downward spiral after U.S. forces shot down what they alleged was a Chinese spy balloon floating over its skies in February this year. Then it's the issue of Taiwan, which has resulted in suspension of military ties between the two countries. China has suspended the communication after former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's high-profile visit to Taiwan last year. China also expressed anger over a stopover in the United States by Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen earlier this year. China regularly showcases its power with military exercises off Taiwan's coast. Chinese leaders have stepped up their threats against Taiwanese independence. Biden might try to manage credible non-war guarantees from China. The Biden-Xi meeting also comes just months before Taiwan's presidential election in January, and Washington wants Beijing not to meddle in the campaign. Another point of friction between the two nations is the tech wars. In the latest, United States has tightened its export controls to keep China from acquiring advanced computer chips that it could use to help develop hypersonic missiles and artificial intelligence. Beijing has vigorously protested against the move, and then it's the stance on Russia-Ukraine war that divides the two nations. China's stance on the Russia-Ukraine war has drawn sharp criticism in the United States despite it claiming to be neutral. While in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, Biden is expected to press Xi on China's ties with Iran, including how the Chinese leader can use his influence with Tehran to prevent the war from turning into a wider conflict.
At our southwest border, no one knows this better than the Vice President. To begin in Germany.
For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report on what the expectations are that Biden has from this meet. Listen in.
President Biden says his goal for talks with Xi Jinping is simply to get communication back on track after a tumultuous year. However, there are a number of issues that we'll be watching closely. First, military-to-military dialogue. Analysts across the board agree that communication in times of crises is still the best option between the two sides. And then, of course, it's the issue of the Taiwan question. While Xi Jinping has been quoted as saying the United States should not play with fire when it comes to Taiwan, President Biden has time and again said that the United States would indeed defend Taiwan. And then, of course, the issue of the wars not only between Ukraine and Russia, but the one in the Middle East as well. Trade, people-to-people exchanges, and fentanyl will also be on the agenda, and something that analysts will be watching. And while expectations have been set very low, still these are issues that may bear some fruit, something, when the two sides decide to meet in San Francisco.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.